We have a lot of slightly off of mainstream titles to cover in this week's episode of The Flash, but the first one we're going to start with is probably the most mainstream of all of the releases, and that is A Single Man, starring Colin Firth and Julianne Moore. This film is most notable for the fact that it was directed by Tom Ford, a noted fashion designer, and it is about a man in the 60s who is devastated by the death of his homosexual lover. And it's not a bad film at all. The subject matter, of course, is not exactly cheerful. Anything involving death is always a downer when presented in this fashion. But really, the main reason to watch this film is for Colin Firth's performance. He is outstanding here. He won several awards for it and got nominated for several more, including an Academy Award. He's really the best reason to watch this film. I always enjoy watching Julianne Moore as well. But Tom Ford, while he shows a lot of potential as a filmmaker, there are parts where the film tends to drag, and there are parts where it tends to focus a little too much on fashion for a movie of this type. Still, as far as performances go, it's a terrific movie, and if you're an actor or interested in acting, then this is certainly one to watch out, if solely for that reason. Extra features on the DVD include a director's commentary, so Tom Ford fans will be happy to see that, and a featurette called The Making of a Single Man. Next up, we have Caught in the Crossfire. Switching gears completely, we go directly to a straight-to-video action film, sort of action film. It's more of a suspense kind of character drama starring Chris Klein, Adam Rodriguez, and 50 Cent, also known as Curtis Jackson. It's a decent film for straight-to-video, but there's really nothing fantastically great about it. Chris Klein, while not as embarrassing here as he was in Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, still seems out of place. And of course, 50 Cent is really just not a great actor under any circumstances. Adam Rodriguez really shows the best here. His performance is by far the most entertaining of them all and the most believable, and it's really his character that kind of carries the film. On Blu-ray, special features include outtakes and a trailer gallery, and that's about it. The film looks and sounds pretty good in high definition, but there's really nothing out of the ordinary to write home about here. Next up, we have The Bannen Way, which is an internet series actually brought to DVD that stars Robert Forster, Vanessa Marcel, Michael Ironside, Autumn Reeser, and of course Mark Gant, the most unknown character who plays the lead character. It was a series of internet short films that's been collected into one longer narrative here, similar to the Angel of Death release that also came out from Sony last year based on the Ed Brubaker web miniseries. It certainly is entertaining. There's nothing fantastic about it. It plays out pretty much like any other straight-to-video action film, but with the recognizable faces and some decent production values certainly go a long way towards making it an entertaining watch. If you happen to follow it on the web or you're interested in that type of filmmaking, then this one's certainly worth taking a look at. There are also 6 behind-the-scenes featurettes included on the DVD, so there's a little extra bang for your buck beyond just watching it on the internet. Next up, we have a drama called Crazy, the Hank Garland story, starring Waylon Payne and Ali Larter. Similar in ways to Crazy Heart, the Jeff Bridges movie that he won the Oscar for. This is kind of based on a true story of a country musician who worked with a lot of famous names back in the 50s. And it's actually a pretty good biography for someone that I'd never heard of before this. I'm not a big country music fan. I don't know a lot of the main players, but Waylon Payne is a good performer here. Ali Larter holds up her end of the deal as well. And it's kind of an interesting story of this sort of behind-the-scenes man that gets passed over for fame, if you will. So even if you're not a giant country music fan, I think that as a biopic goes, it's pretty solid. No special features on the DVD, unfortunately, but the movie itself is pretty good. Next, we have A Prophet, which is a foreign film, and it's interesting. The movie shows a lot of promise. I think that the film's director really does kind of know what he wants to do with the film, but I don't know that he's entirely successful in capturing it on film. It wants to be this kind of gritty, hard-hitting action movie, and instead it's more of a slow-burning character piece. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the movie does run a little bit long, and for all the quotes on the box cover that compare it to The Godfather, it doesn't really kind of come close to the quality of The Godfather. It's certainly an interesting film, and I think people who enjoy foreign films will especially like it. It's a little bit different from the usual kind of romantic fare. It's a little more dark and gritty, and it does have some great performances even in another language, but it's just not as well put together as I would have liked. You do get commentary, deleted scenes, and rehearsal footage for extra features, and as far as the Blu-ray goes, it certainly looks and sounds good. I wouldn't say this is the kind of reference disc you're going to pull out to show off your system, but I think you'll be happy getting it on Blu-ray versus DVD. Next up, we have two romantic comedies of sorts from E1 Entertainment, How to Make Love to a Woman and Control-Alt-Delete. Unfortunately, neither of them is particularly good, despite some great cast members. How to Make Love to a Woman features Ian Somerhalder and Kristen Ritter in the cast, a lot of familiar faces, and it's just kind of your very typical romantic comedy stuff. It doesn't do anything particularly well, but it also doesn't do anything particularly bad. Control-Alt-Delete is a little bit stranger of a film. It features Tyler Labine, who you'll probably remember from Reaper and Invasion. I generally find him to be very funny, and I think the fact that his brother directed the film should have lent itself to this being kind of a comedy knockout. But when you take the story of a man who starts to make love to his computer, and I do mean that quite literally, you either have to be really funny or you're going to fail. And in this case, it just doesn't quite hit the funny knob the way that it should. Bonus features on How to Make Love to a Woman: you get a making-of featurette, cast and crew interviews, outtakes, and a music video, while Control-Alt-Delete includes interviews with the cast, and that's about it. These are pretty standard fare on Blu-ray. You know, your mixes are decent, nothing too terribly exciting in the surround sound, and picture quality is good, nothing out of the ordinary. Slightly better upgrade than you get on DVD, but nothing much more than that. Next up, we have Accidents Happen, starring Gina Davis, and this is a dramedy of sorts, if you will, and it's one of those films that tries real hard to be kind of quirky and original, and ends up, in fact, just rather being dull and unoriginal. Gina Davis is all over the cover art, and she gets her name above the credits, but she's really not the main character here. That would be her teenage son, Billy, and the movie, it just never really kind of comes together for me. It's not bad, but it's not great. And it sort of is just quirky. It's the best word I can think of to describe it. If you like that kind of movie, you might find more to like here than I did. But I don't necessarily like movies where characters are weird just for the sake of being weird. And this one sort of seems to have that going for it. Your extra features include a couple of making-of featurettes, 2 trailers, and some cast and crew interviews. Following that, we have Middle of Nowhere, another one of these sort of dramas with a great cast, actually. Anton Yelchin, Justin Chatwin, Willa Holland, and of course, you're above the credits, Susan Sarandon, who in this case is the and Susan Sarandon. Boy, again, I hate to sound like a broken record. It's just not that great of a movie. The film's director is the director of Blue Crush and a number of other decent movies. That's what he makes. He makes halfway decent movies that aren't terrible but aren't great, and Middle of Nowhere is just yet another one of these. It's sort of this drama with a bunch of different characters. There's nothing terribly interesting in it. There's a lot of intertwined relationships, and it kind of almost wants to feel like a much more serious version of Adventureland. That's not really the greatest comparison because it's not a timepiece. It doesn't take place in another era, but it's a film that just doesn't really ever excite you anything, and that's pretty much just like you're going to find from all of the other films that John Stockwell has directed. Nothing against the guy; he makes decently crafted movies, but he doesn't make great movies. Both Accidents Happen in Middle of Nowhere, very standard Blu-ray upgrades. You get slightly better picture and sound quality than you get on a DVD, but nothing that really requires you going out of your way. Finally, we have The Flying Scissors, which is a independent mockumentary about a rock, paper, scissors competitive tournament. And it's interesting. You know, I like a lot of independent films, and this one certainly has a lot going for it in that it's well thought out, it's well put together. It's certainly better than a lot of the independent films that I've had sent my way, and I do mean independent. This is pretty not one of those ones released through, like, you know, Miramax or something like that. But it follows a group of people as they kind of work their way through this tournament for rock, paper, scissors. And the concept is funny, but I wonder if it might not have worked better as a short film than as a full-length 90-minute feature. That being said, it certainly is enjoyable. I certainly don't regret having watched it, and I like the fact that the DVD comes with some great bonus features, including a theatrical trailer, commentary with the writers, and, well, that's about it. There's a few other things listed on the back of the DVD case, but scene selection and interactive menus don't quite make the cut in my book. Still worth checking out if you like the mockumentary feature and if you like independent films in general.